talking about before, everyone's different, right? So I may take something in the way or I might take something you said in completely different than you intended. Right. And it causes problems.
Yeah.
And then the person who said it doesn't understand what the problem is because they didn't say it the way that you took it in. So one of the things that the advice that I received was, if something like that happens, like, you need to almost over explain, but in a good way.
Educate.
Like, like, okay, this is what I heard. Right. Is this what you meant? And then the person responds, no, that's not at all what I meant. This is what I meant to say. I'm sorry if that hurt you. And that's how it works. But that works so well with friendships too. Like, you think someone really sucks, but
thank you so much for tuning in to the Natives Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about relationships or friendships. There are so many interactions that we have throughout our life. Some may be with our family, friends, close members in society, neighbors, coworkers, you name it. Like, people you bump into in the streets. In all these relationships, they come in different levels. Some may be high and by, some may be networking levels, or for most, they're deeper personal levels as well. But today we have a lot of awesome people here, great special guests that we have, and I guess you guys can introduce yourselves. I don't know which way we're going, but
hi, my name is Nat. I'm a behavior therapist. Next.
What's good? My name is Kobe. I am a campus ministry leader.
Hey guys, this is Mike, and I'm a copywriter.
Oh, fancy.
Oh, wow. We should let him go last.
With
For real.
That is the title now.
Yeah, so since we're talking about relationships, I guess one of the first questions I want to ask you guys is, who are your best friends and how did you guys meet?
Oh my gosh, what a loaded question already.
I mean, this one's right there. It's on the tip of my tongue, you feel me? So, yeah, my best friend, Spencer Quillaford Mitchell. First of all, shouts out to Spencer, because that boy just got engaged like a week ago.
Shout out, Spencer.
Yes, Spencer. I could finally be in somebody's wedding. Yes. Yes. So, yeah, Spencer. I've known him since I was 6 years old. I'm 22 now. He's 24. And we actually met. I was the first person that he met when he moved down here from California, from Los Angeles to be specific. So we met in Kingdom Kids. It's basically like a class that we had going on for the younger people during church. And yeah, we met in there. And it's funny how everything happened, because I was really sheltered growing up. So like, my parents wouldn't let me hang out like with people unless they met their parents. And I'm like, as a 6-year-old, like, how am I going to orchestrate you meeting my parents? So we met, and I was like, I guess this is just going to be where it's at. Like, we're just going to be friends, like, at church or whatever. And fast forward, our sisters ended up meeting as well, and they're also best friends. So that was really God just orchestrating everything. But yeah, that's how we met. He's been there for me through the highs, through the lows. We shared a lot of laughs together. We traveled places together. Like, that's my life buddy right there.
Let's go, life buddy.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's how I met him.
So
Let's go submission.
Whenever someone asks me who my best friend is, I usually think of two. The first one is Rebecca Hines. She's from the Westchester region in New York. And my other one is John Moyer. So I met both of them in campus ministry when I was in college. Wow, I can say that now because I graduated 2 years ago.
Let's go.
I met Rebecca, I think like a couple of months after I became a disciple in 2016 or the end of 2015. And it started out like both of us being in a Bible study together with someone else. And there was like something she mentioned that I was trying to grow in, and I asked her about it, and she was like caught off guard, like, what? It was like, what she had told me was, you want to hang out with me, kind of thing. That's what she was thinking. So I was a very forward person. I was like, you should come over, you should sleep over, like, I'll go to your house and this and that. So that's how our friendship grew. and it's continued to this day very steadily, which is awesome. And then John Moyer. John Moyer's been through thick and thin with me and all of my emotions, so he's also a very stable friend. Both of them are gone right now, but it's fine. I'll survive without them here.
Yeah. I feel like I can't just like narrow it down to just one person. I can think of 3 like top people, right? There's also John, who Natalia stole. I'm just kidding.
Let's go, G.
Relax.
But it's funny because we used to go to school together, but we didn't really know each other that well when we were in closer proximity. But once he'd moved away, we actually reconnected on Facebook, of all places. So it's funny that we're closer now that we're states apart than when we're living here. Another friend, Carolina, who I met through going to yoga.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yoga.
Like, you know when someone invites you to do something and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll go, but you really don't want to go. That was that. But God blessed that tremendously. And that was probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And God has kept that friendship growing. So I've been super grateful for that. And also, I don't know if this is cheating, but Josh definitely comes to mind.
Let's go, Josh.
It's
He's
He's in the background right now.
he's seen all my crazy.
Showing up signs and all
And
that.
yeah, it's just when I think of friendship, I think of people who just really go to bat for you and who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. I think that's super important, and just always having each other's back. So I'm super grateful for all that.
Yeah, that's fire. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I don't know if I'm supposed to share, but I guess I'll share. So yeah, there's a lot of people that come to mind as far as like best friends. But one of them, his name is Keith Thornton. And it's funny because we met at a Super Bowl party, and that was the first day I met him in general. You were there.
That was that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was when it was the Patriots and the Eagles.
Yeah.
That's when the Eagles won, and I was going for the Patriots, sadly. But yeah, like that dude's been with me through thick and thin. He's helped me a lot in my walk, like my spiritual walk, and even as a person. And yeah, that's my roommate now too. So it's like it's cool, like just being able to see him every day and like actually grow as friends and kind of what you were mentioning, having a lifelong buddy next to you. So that's cool. But yeah, one of the questions you kind of
Oh, it was the Patriots and Falcons, by the way.
Patriots and Eagles.
No, the Patriots won that game.
Yeah, that's up for discussion.
So funny.
But one of the things that you said, Mike, was as far as like relationships and friendships, and it's cool. Like one of the questions I wanted to ask was like what do you think is important for people, or why do you think it's important for people to have close relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. Immediately, I think of just all the craziness of the day-to-day, like working. You know, we all worked with stressful people or in stressful situations or unforeseen situations where it's like, man, like, I don't want to go through this. And it's easy for your mind to kind of just go into overdrive. And I think of friends as kind of your rear view mirror or your side view mirror. What's that one called? The side mirror, right? Because like you can turn your head left and like you're good, you can see and turn left, but you need that side mirror on the right side because that's your blind side, right? So when you're talking to your friends who know you, who've seen you grow and make mistakes, like they're able to kind of be like, yo, like you're not seeing this clearly, you know?
Yeah, you guys can answer too if you want.
That's such a loaded question because I have so many things that like I need people for, if that makes sense. But I know one of the biggest things is the simple fact that we live in a generation where it's like I, me, solo dolo, this and that, right? But like when you have people to do life with you, and again, like real friends that are there for you when things are going great, and that are there for you when things aren't going great. Like, I know that's what I need people for. We need people to sometimes speak sense into us, where even when we don't want to hear it. A lot of people that don't know you like that won't tell you what you need to hear. Or they will, but it's not really asked for, and they also have no idea what they're saying because they don't know you. So I just know that's one of the biggest things, like having people to be there as real support, and also to check you like when you need to be checked. I know, like, if it wasn't for the people close to me, like, I honestly, I don't know where I would be. Josh being one of them. I know I always bring it up, but like, that man is really, he's come from my neck sometimes, but it was needed. So yeah.
What about you, Nat?
Can you ask the question again?
So why do you think it's important for people to have close relationships?
Honestly, just from like my personal experience, like, I feel like life doesn't actually work without people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
True.
you don't function as best as you can without people in your corner, or just friends in general. Like, you'll make bad decisions, or you won't have anyone to turn to if you're like going through something. Like, how are you supposed to pull yourself out of something without anybody supporting you? Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. And it's interesting because it wasn't until I got into the kingdom that I realized the value of having long-lasting relationships.
So true.
I was very much the type of person, like, when relationships got hard, I just dumped them. Like, friends, I just got rid of them, and I moved on to someone else.
Yeah.
So to have to learn to, like, stick with someone, not because you have to, but because that's the only way that you can grow and they can grow and mature. It's been a very difficult learning process for me, but
Yeah.
it's been worthwhile.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned times in close relationships that may be difficult or may be hard. What are some of the aspects for you guys that you think about being hard for having close relationships? Like, what are some of those things that can come up?
I think for me in that, it's like, because people are different than you. You won't always have someone who's exactly identical to you, so you're gonna butt heads at some time. So when in that sense, and then there's also like, sometimes there will be things that you say that hurt somebody's feelings, or somebody says something to you that hurts your feelings, and instead of like talking about it, you're just like, well, this isn't working anymore, let me just dump it. Like, that doesn't work.
That's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. Someone once taught me, or told me, they shared this with me because they saw that I was struggling by not having close relationships here, because my friends moved away. And one of the things they said was, like, not everyone knows how to be a good friend. Like, you have to teach someone how to be a good friend, but they have to be willing to be taught too. So I'm like, I have to be willing to talk about what I need from a friend, and they have to be willing to be receptive to be a good friend to me too.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to have any input on that. Like, have you guys dealt with any conflict in your close relationships before?
1,000%. All of them. Yeah, I don't even want to really touch on it right now. I have to think, but because I'll be talking for a long time.
I
Cut
think
that out.
I think one of the most interesting parts about relationships is just loving someone for who they are and where they're at, and accepting those differences. Because, like, for me, like, my mom describes me as a dirty germaphobe. And like, people just have different habits. Like, I hate wearing shoes in the house, but to other people, like, that's totally normal. But to me, I just want to cringe and get a mop. So just learning that, like, my perspective, my way isn't the best way. It isn't everyone's way, but that we all have our own ways, and just learning to love people. And depending on certain things, it's easier. And sometimes it's harder, but just remembering, like, wow, like, this is a whole other person with a whole other upbringing and different experiences. It's just really awesome to see how that's affected people and how it's made them stronger, especially. And learning from that, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah, I think I'll piggyback on that aspect. Like, you have to go through that. Like you have to go through that. Your relationships have to be battle tested. If it's always a walk in the park, then there's some aspect of it that is missing or just isn't real.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like, oh, you should be butting heads and like not talking for 3 months. But again, like kind of like what Nat said, like we all are wired differently, and that's the thing that makes relationships so interesting. Is we all have different things that we bring to the table, and we all have different things that we expect or that we desire to have. So I think just being able to go through things and for the relationships to actually be stronger after, that's what really separates like the ones that aren't strong from the ones that are, because they're battle tested, and those battles and those lows at times, or that friction that makes it like stronger.
Yeah, I agree with all the things that you guys said, and it's funny, kind of thinking about that question, where the most conflict comes from in close relationships. I think for me, it's because of the weaknesses in each of the person that is in the relationship. I know for me, there was a situation with one of my best friends, who shall not be named, and it was
Nice.
it was because of
Confidentiality.
just one of the things was just like us being there for each other when times got hard. There was a moment where it was like we weren't talking for like a month or so, and it was just always awkward. And the reason being was because that person wanted to be there for me for a situation with family, and I just didn't let that happen. I didn't open that door. And I think what's cool is being able to talk with someone about, like, being able to talk about it, being able to bring it up and not feel, I don't want to say attacked, but like, well, in a sense, I'll use that word, attacked. And it's just like, seeing that, it allowed us to grow as friends so much more, because we got to tackle something so difficult to even talk about, and still being like, wow, even after all of that, even after all the emotions, still sitting there and like, wow, I really need this person in my life. I really love this person, and feeling like that. So it's cool being able to see that in friendships, and even being able to being blessed to have that, because a lot of people don't have close relationships like that. It's very superficial or lukewarm, but being able to have that deepness is just so cool to see. But yeah, how do you guys feel like the dynamics of your relationships have changed since you guys have gotten older?
For one, being okay with not hanging out all the time
Yeah.
because of full-time jobs and other responsibilities. That's been frustrating.
I think my grace has grown a lot. Because people are going to mess up. We're human. They might say the wrong thing or do something that kind of bothers you, but either kind of, depending on what it is or to the degree something was done, like either addressing it, having that vulnerability and ability to address it, in love, or just kind of just like, oh, it's not really a big deal, and understanding that and not making mountains out of molehills. Molehills? I don't know if I can say that right. Mole. Yeah, y'all get the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all my friendships, all my closest ones, like people have either moved away, or gotten married or things like that. So you go through life and you end up in different life stages where, kind of like Nat was saying, like you don't have as much time to be together, but just because you're not together as much doesn't mean that depth can't still be there. And that's the beauty of the ones that are really closest to me, because you can talk to them and there's really no missed time, but learning how to adjust to the situations, because the situations don't always stay the same, but the friendship can. And I think also just from my side, just learning how to like bring the things to the table that I expect. And it's something that, being on the other end of it now, like I see it a lot, and it's like, man, like, well, if you have this expectation, whether it's for a group or whether it's for a friendship or like whatever it is, it's like, don't sit there and complain about it. Like, bring it to the table. Or if you have that need, voice it, but it has to be addressed. And I think the things that I expect, especially like in my friendships, which is really just depth and consistency, and I'm not even saying like all our conversations have to bring us to tears and stuff, but just like authenticity. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I know if I want that, like, I have to be an initiator and make sure I'm creating opportunities for that to happen. I can't just sit here and wait for everybody to gravitate towards me, because what I may want or desire or need, other people may not need that. And that stuff goes all the way back to like our upbringings as well. Like, the way that you interacted with your family can play a big role in the way that you interact with people, or just the previous friendships that you had. So I can't just walk into a situation like assuming that somebody's going to be on the same page as me, knowing that we're all wired differently and all our lives have been different. So yeah, I think that's a huge one. Like, it's taught me how to bring to the table what I expect.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought she was about to say something.
Uh,
Put her on the
well,
spot.
I guess two things. So the first thing I thought of with what Kobe was saying, it just reminds me of that scripture that talks about considering how you can encourage someone. And that scripture in First Thessalonians, I've shared it with you, Mike, but it talks about like how to respond to people in specific situations. So like it says to specifically help the weak, encourage the faint-hearted, and I forget the rest, but being patient with all. Because like, for example, if you help someone who's not doing so well out of pride, that doesn't actually help them. You got to like what is that word?
Nurture?
Like put fire up their butt to like work.
Not nurture.
Like it doesn't. So, I mean, it's just it's not simple. Where, like, for example, if one person is encouraged or I don't know, encouraged in one way, like with words of affirmation, it may not work with everybody that way.
Yeah.
And it falls into the umbrella of behavior therapy that I'm thinking of right now.
That's
But
true.
I won't go into that. But the other thing that I was thinking about while Mike was talking and then when Kobe was talking was just one thing that I've recently been learning is that I think sometimes because I'm so complex and I'm very emotional, I feel like I can be very difficult to love. But what I realized about myself is that I don't want to have, or this was before, but I don't want to have to love someone who's difficult to love because it's difficult. And now it's kind of changed. Like, I've acknowledged that I can be difficult to love, so I want to love those who are difficult to love as well because they deserve it too.
Wow.
Like, if friends have been that
That's awesome.
faithful to me when I've been difficult, maybe not. I've said this to someone and they're like, "You're not difficult to love. Like, you're really awesome and whatever, blah blah, whatever." But I feel like it's unfair for me to pick and choose friends because of how simple it is. Because I mean, imagine if Jesus picked and chose who he saved because
wow.
of how simple it was. Like,
Dang.
yeah, like
Mic drop.
it just
Yeah.
it just reminds me of that, and I don't know. I think that's what I'm specifically still growing in, but it's just a thought.
I think that's the key component is the love.
Yeah.
I mean, in a religious sense, like all of this, we're all here because of love. Like,
Yeah.
all of us are in this room. A lot of us either wouldn't know each other or wouldn't know each other at the depth that we know each other at if it wasn't, for love, if it wasn't for God's initiating love and his unconditional love.
Yeah.
But, even just like in a practical or in a surfacey sense, like that love has to be there.
Facts.
You gotta
Yeah.
love that person. You gotta accept that person for who they are. And I'm sure you guys can all attest to that, but that's another thing that makes our relationships as close as they are.
Yeah.
Especially in the day and age we grew up in or grew up in. Wow, it's crazy to say that. But,
I don't like it.
like cliques, just different things like that. Like, my school was like highly populated, and I wouldn't say segregated, but people had their groups, and it was usually organized by race or by hobbies and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, I grew up around a lot of people, so I would try to infiltrate other groups, but it's like, oh, you don't have anything that you relate to us with. Like, being in the classes I was in, like, all my classmates were Jewish, and they all knew each other before they came to my school. I couldn't relate to that. Oh, it's cool. Like, let me go hang out with the black kids. Oh, but you don't sound like us. Okay, well,
Dang.
let me go hang out with the white kids. Well, you don't look like us. So it's like, all right, well, what am I supposed to do? So being able to find those people that were like, hey, I don't really care what you look like, what you sound like, if we have that much to relate to as long as I value you above myself and you value me above yourself, this whole thing can work. So I think that love really goes a long way, and it's the greatest thing to fall back on, because love isn't just a feeling. Like, love is a commitment. And again, if it's really love, it's unconditional. So
Yeah.
that's what fights
Yeah.
out through all of it.
Dang, Kobe.
Dang.
Right to the heart.
You guys body that. But it's funny. Like, I was thinking about examples of relationships that have changed, or dynamics that's changed in relationships, like with time. And I thought about our friendship, and it's funny. Like, when we first met. So first thing, when we first met, this guy thought I didn't like him. I didn't know.
No, that's not true.
He's got-
Clear the air.
What did you
clear
say?
the air.
No.
I
He's
thought
got
he
a
was a
stank
pretty boy.
face.
I met this dude. He clapped my hand up. He grabbed it a little tight. I think he was trying to assert dominance, but we could address that another way.
Bruh.
What's with the face you're making?
I went to
right
visit
now?
Miami, and somebody goes, "Oh, Spencer, my best friend." He goes, "Yo, Spencer," he goes, "Yo, Kobe, you got to meet JP. JB, you got to meet Kobe. He hoops." And we lock eyes, we clap each other up, and he was like, "Oh, you hoop?" And I was like,
I'm dead.
"Yeah."
Dramatic.
And I was like, no, that was really like how it was though. The dude had a smile on his face the whole time. I always tell JP he's one of the most charming people I know, but he keeps denying it. But
let all the
he
ladies
he
know.
was like, yeah, cool, bet. You guys know how FIU's campus connection is, like the reception.
Shout out
terrible.
FIU, man.
So we get each other's Instagrams and we write it down, and then I'm sure you'll touch on it, but like that Super Bowl party he met Keith at was like where
Yeah.
things started to pick up.
So going back to the Super Bowl party, I don't know who was playing, but the Patriots is there, so that's all that matters. But yeah, it was cool because in our friendship, like spending quality time with one another, like we just grew so close to each other. Like I was with this guy every single day, and he lives in Broward. I live in Miami. For those who are not in South Florida, like that's like what 30-minute drive.
yeah.
About
It could be an hour.
it could be an hour depending on what time you leave.
Oh, rush
but-
hour.
Where you
Rush
live.
or where you live.
Broward.
Facts. But we were spending time together. Like it was like every day, and that friendship just grew from that. And
Wow.
it was crazy. Like so many things happened during that time. Like he got hurt, COVID, which I call that like the training arc for everybody. Like everybody was growing in something during COVID, during the pandemic.
100%.
We met in 2018.
Met in 2018. But during that time, like things was going on in our lives, and we didn't spend as much time together. Like there were moments where I didn't see this dude for months.
Yeah.
But it's cool because since we had that structure and that foundation already there, like when we do link up or when we do chat, it was like we didn't skip a beat. And even like the other day, like this man pulled up, and I was like, it was. It was so dramatic because we're two very dramatic people. So when we saw each other, it was like everything was in slow motion. I ran to him, gave this man a hug, and he was like, "Yo, what's going on?" It was a super deep voice. I'm like, "Bro,
I missed it. Sound like
I missed you, man." But it's cool seeing that and just seeing how, with that foundation, like we still can continue going as friends and still continue to be there for each other. And we've grown so much. Like this guy's grown, I've grown in different areas, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and it's like we want to lift each other up and even carry each other's burdens.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that, and cool to be in each other's life like that. So that was one of the examples that I thought of. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any examples of friendships that you've seen change with still having that fire in a relationship. Paused. Did it die?
To stop talking.
Are you good? All right, we're back. So you guys, yeah.
Okay, repeat the question, my bad.
Do you guys have any examples of like relationships that have changed over time?
Can you use it in a sentence?
I was seriously looking at you confused. I was like, was that not a sentence?
Thought we were at a spelling bee. My bad.
Relationships. REL.
Wrong.
You
I
almost
think-
got it, tequila.
I feel like all my relationships are continuously changing, and I feel like I've just learned to be flexible with the direction that they're going, and that I can't force things. It's funny, whenever I try to be crazy intentional about something, or like pursuing a friendship or whatever, like it never works out. And it's just like, wow, like God, like I just have to trust you. And I honestly believe that every friend that I have is a gift from God, because when I try to take control of my own life and try to do things like that are easy or the way that I like them, like it's just a total faceplant, belly flop every single time. But when I'm trusting God and He's just providing, like it's nothing I can duplicate or imitate myself. And just trusting in His provision, I feel like that's taught me to trust in His provision a lot. So yeah.
I started tearing up when you started talking about
We
that.
cry. I want to cry with y'all.
No, I mean it's pretty easy to make me cry, but I don't want
Onions?
to. No.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
Just say something very dramatic and I'll be like,
noted.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh man.
Really?
You about to
where the
answer,
low-
Oh, I thought she was gonna answer.
What was
Yeah.
the question again?
I was like, is there any examples of relationships that you have that have changed like over time?
Yeah, I can think of one. I won't say their name, but we knew each other before we kind of cleaned our lives up. So the way we interacted before was very like, well, naturally I'm emotional. This friend is also emotional, but I'm a what did Leke call it? A stuffer, like a stuffer of emotions. Won't talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Shout out Leke.
They woo.
I don't remember that midweek series, but it was like Stacy Stuffer. I don't know, whatever.
Is that Debbie Downer's distant cousin?
Yeah, actually, something like that. But I would never talk about that when she studied the Bible with me, actually. And when I became a disciple, it was interesting because I felt hurt by her. And I never brought it up to her because I'm a stuffing Stacy. So I think with her specifically, I've learned how to communicate things that bother me. But it's still, I mean, that's still my tendency, right? Not to talk about what I'm feeling. But it's weird because ever since I brought up like whatever it was that hurt me, our relationship had been 1,000 times better.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God. Like, all I have to do is cry, like have this 15-20 minute conversation and just cry about how I'm feeling.
Wow.
This was difficult but easy at the same time. So I think in that way, but that's definitely something that's still something I gotta grow in.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Any growth is good growth, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Do you think there are certain relationships that can hinder people?
Oh, for sure.
100%.
100%.
100%.
Yo, what? Of course. Like, great question. Great question. Yo, that's why they're called toxic relationships. What? Yeah, bro.
So dramatic.
You know when somebody says, yo, because I mean,
Told you.
I mean, I've had my fair share, so it's like I just know. But like that saying, like, hey, they're no good for you. That's a real thing. And that could be in a physical sense, like this person just puts you in harm because they do dumb stuff, and you can mess around and get caught slipping at like a stoplight, or it could be like this person literally ruins my well-being. Like I'm emotionally and mentally struggling all the time because of the damage that you inflict on me.
Wow.
But again, all these things stem from where we come from and what we're used to. So if you grow up in a household where you don't have the connection with your parents that you would like to have or not, in that case, it wasn't even me. Like, I know what a healthy family looks like and things like that, but not knowing what healthy friendships look like at a young age made me think like, okay, well, this is just what I got to do. As long as I have people that I can hang around, like, this is good enough for me. But the more I got older, I'm like, yeah, this is just bad. Like, we're just bad. Like, we have nothing in common with you guys other than, again, either what we do, like maybe we play the same sport, or we look the same, or we like the same music. But other than that, we have nothing good in common together, nothing good that we can build upon. Like, and just, yeah, not getting the support that I need, and not even being valued in a sense. It was more of like a take. I'm pouring out, and it's just take. You know, that's the biggest part, because again, we're all wired differently. We all bring different things to the table. So there'll be times where somebody fills one area in more than others. But having a relationship that is not built on, again, both of you guys valuing each other above yourselves and being willing to elevate the other person or lift the other person up, or if you both are down to be able to lift each other up and build up together. Like, if those three aspects are not there, I consider that to be a toxic relationship. Because there's nothing good about it, unless it just has no surface and there's no depth. Then I wouldn't even say that's a friendship. I would say that's an acquaintanceship. But yes, to answer your question, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like what is it? Bad company corrupts good morals or something like that? Or good character? I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, for sure. I think one characteristic I can definitely think of is just over-dependence. And I think that's something I'm guilty of, being over-dependent on people. And that's one thing I'm also learning to balance in my own life, is just to, like, when I'm fighting or when I have a burden per se, it's like, man, like, how much of this do I fight on my own versus how much do I allow other people to help me? And when I'm allowing other people to help me, I have to take that initiative to bring it to another person, to make it available to them to help me, and eliminating my pride in order to do that. Because I can be my own worst enemy literally most of the time. And I think that's what I've been learning a lot, or most of my adulthood, is just how much I self-sabotage myself based off of the stories that I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
Like, you're not good enough, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not worthy. No one's going to like you. They're going to talk behind your back or whatever. There's so many different things, and just remembering not to listen to those voices and just giving people the benefit of the doubt and not allowing things to linger in my mind, like, oh, I wonder what, Nat said when she meant this. Like, I could think about that and ruminate on that for however long and be sad or misinterpret it all day long. But if I would have just no, I'm just looking at you
like, what are you implying?
No. Like,
versus
why me?
no, versus like feeling a certain way by what she hypothetically said and bringing it to her and like, hey, Nat, like, I feel that what you said made me feel XYZ. Like, can we clear it up? Can you help me out? Like, I'm just being real. And I think that's something I have to learn how to balance and do in truth and love, and not expect people to know what I'm thinking.
Communication aspect.
Yeah, communication is key. I've learned that, especially as a copywriter.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
You mentioning overdependence made me remember about codependence. I don't know if you guys know what that is. You guys might be able to describe it better than me, because it's still something that don't know too much about.
You were a psych major. I think you got it.
But before I actually knew what it was, I used to think it was like, it just means like you're kind of like a bungee cord friend to somebody, like you guys do everything together. But it's not. It's actually like there's an aspect of control there, where you're like trying to control this person who you have codependence over's life, but not in the sense of like, I'm the boss of you, more so out of good intentions. So like, for example, if one of my friends, I see her doing something that could hurt her, I will try to like almost manipulate her in order so that she doesn't hurt herself, but there's still manipulation there. Does that make sense?
Okay. That's why you had the air quotes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I wonder where this is going. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I explained that correctly, so please don't come after me, but
You got it up.
but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah, so I looked it up.
Amen.
Google it.
men.
Hashtag Google it.
2021.
Yeah, so codependency, the definition is this: a codependent is someone who cannot function on their own and whose thinking and behavior is instead organized around another person.
That makes sense too. So I
So
don't know
were
if I was
you-
completely wrong.
Yeah, I was like,
But-
whereas I was not entirely correct, it did not mean what I
So-
thought it meant.
Yeah, so okay. Yes, what I mentioned as well, but it's like your whole focus is on one person.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I described.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned that I am
That's
little
still a
bit
thing.
like that,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really scary.
I
Especially
definitely
when
like
you-
that.
Nah,
Yeah.
but it's good though. It's good that you know that you have that.
And I
Like
don't know much
tendency.
about it.
But you're so self-aware.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's the
That
good thing
is
about it.
huge.
Thank you.
Now, if you were oblivious and you're just like, oh, then we have an issue.
We all have issues to deal with at the end of the day.
But as long as you're aware of that, then it's just like, hey, I could work on it.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
So
I
that's a
think
good thing.
also being willing to work on it.
Yeah.
Because you can see a problem all day long, but
Yeah.
like, you know, are you hungry? You can feed it, you know, but you're not actually like
You
taking
know,
care of
it
business.
reminds me. It reminds me of that
Hungry.
GIF. It's like the room is on fire and that dog.
Mhm.
thing is
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And he's sitting there with the
it's
hat
sitting
on,
there
right?
and it just
Smiling.
says, "This is okay."
This is okay. And it's just like,
No big deal.
you know,
Oh
that's the
my
first thing I
God.
thought about when he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Wow, can we talk about communication?
Mm.
Oh,
That's real.
okay. So I was gonna say something about that too. This was relationship advice that I received when I was dating somebody. That
Wow. Hold on.
Oh, those relationships.
Because literally
Oh.
that
Okay.
you're about to answer that question. So it's
Okay.
basically like
I'll wait.
if you had to give someone advice about building healthy relationships,
Hmm.
what would your advice be to them?
building healthy romantic relationships or
Just friendships.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I think a
Sorry.
romantic relationship,
Just-
friendship
I mean,
is the
it
basis
The
doesn't-
whole
anyway.
the whole thing?
Yeah, I know.
So those
What I was
things
gonna
translate.
say was okay. So I got this for it was dating advice,
Mm.
but it
We'll take
just
it.
makes so much
From
sense
who?
as like a person.
It's-
So, okay, like we were talking about before, everyone's different, right?
Mhm.
So, I may take something in the way or I might take something you said in completely different than you intended,
Right.
and it causes problems.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then the person who said it doesn't understand what the problem is because
Yep.
they didn't say it the way that you took it in.
Mm.
So one of the things that the advice that I received was if something like that happens, like you need to almost over explain, but in a good way.
Educate.
Like, yeah, like, okay, this is what I heard.
Right.
Is this what you meant? And then the person responds, no, that's not at all what I meant. This is what I meant to say. I'm sorry if that hurt you. And that's how it works. But that works so well with friendships too. Like,
Oh, from
you think
1000.
someone really sucks, but really you just didn't understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
I have to have those conversations all the time because I'm super blunt, and I also like when people are blunt with me. Like, I don't like people beating around the bush or anything. Like, if someone can say something in 3 minutes and it takes them 13, I'm gonna be like, you just wasted 10 minutes of my life. and
Literally.
you could have said it in 3 minutes. So, like, I'm very blunt, and especially with people that I know, it's like, look, I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear. So, hey, it may rub you the wrong way. I may be stepping on your feet, you know, but it's what you need to hear at the end of the day. And that could be my mindset. But even though it's what they need to hear, there are times where, and this is something I'm trying to work on now, is just learning how to communicate effectively. So, yes, again, there will be times where I'll say something to someone and it's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to make them uncomfortable. It doesn't always have to be that way, though. And I look at how Jesus communicated with people, and sometimes he said a lot, sometimes he said a little, sometimes he didn't say anything, or he just asked a question. And that's sometimes what you need. Sometimes you don't have to tell somebody the answer. Sometimes you might just have to ask them some questions and help them find it for themselves. When you discover something for yourself, that's when you really retain the information. So
true.
I think just learning how to go about that as well, you know, that comes with knowing the person, though, and you learn that over time, and that is built up through trial and error. But that's another huge aspect. Learning how to communicate with someone. I know I said a lot, but that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. Mike, I don't know if you have any advice.
Advice. Well, you young whippersnappers.
Oh.
I don't
my.
like it.
All right, y'all. I didn't drive here. Dang.
I think honestly, just vulnerability and humility. I think is huge. being willing to do things that you might not want to do, and just really putting someone else above your own needs, and doing, whatchamacallit. Oh, that's my train of thought. I don't even have a train.
Life together.
I don't even have a train.
That's been
The train has left the station without you.
What'd you say, Kobe? Cool.
You got it, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out, Josh. I think he wants you to turn.
Yeah, I got it.
Mike is on you.
You
Back on.
wanted the pillow a certain way. Visionary. Got you.
So yeah, relationships advice. Humility, I think, just is huge. Knowing that I don't know everything, and just knowing that I can also learn from anyone that I meet. Like, I can learn from kids. I can learn from someone at Publix. I can learn from literally anyone. Like, it's always a learning experience, and being humble to the fact that I can learn from anyone, as opposed to having the mindset of like, oh, you're like 14, bro. What can you?
Yeah.
Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so side kind of correlates. Whatever. I was on some social media. I don't remember what it was, but there were like pictures.
MySpace.
All right, relax. Did you guys actually have a Myspace growing up?
I did,
No,
yes.
100%.
All right,
Nope.
so then maybe you're not as young
Sheltered,
as I
we've
thought.
been over
even though
this.
you're technically part of the Gen Z generation.
Guys, I'm 27.
You are not 27.
Everybody's MySpace.
I'm
got
not even
hacked.
27.
Not getting on there.
Impossible.
I'm 24, guys.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyways, I was on, I think, Facebook, okay? And it was like pictures of parents interacting with their kid. And it was like them explaining, like, I was really short with my daughter and saying, like, can you hurry up or whatever. And my daughter responds, you know, I'm only like 5. Like, I can't do things as quickly as you. I'm still learning how to do them.
Wow.
And it's like, what? And it was like a bunch of different ones in different situations. It's like, holy moly. They learn so much from their 5-year-old just saying, like, have patience on me. I'm only 5.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it's funny.
I learned a lot from anyone.
Yeah.
Yes, I think for me, patience really stole my answer. But yeah, just being patient.
Capital
Like,
P.
Not all relationships are gonna go at the speed or rate that you want them to go. Like, not everyone's gonna be your best friend. Not everyone's gonna be like your lifelong buddy. You know. But having patience in different relationships, I think
The
that
growth aspect, or just in general?
in general, like growth and even like the depth of your relationship with different people. Like, I've realized, like, not all my friendships are gonna be as close for like with Keith or with Kobe, but they're still gonna be valuable friendships because they're gonna see things that those guys don't see, or
Yeah.
we're gonna have things that we kind of connect on that they might not have. But being patient and also just seeking to love in all areas, you know, like there's some things I do that are gonna annoy the people that are close to me, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry for that, but it's gonna happen, you know. And there's gonna be some things that they do that are gonna annoy me, but it's like, is that love gonna be constant? Because like they might not know how we're wired, and we may not know how they are.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool being able to see that, and even being able to have conversations about that. Like, yo, like you did this, and that bothered me. Yo, I'm sorry I did that, but here's why, and being able to grow from that. So I think it's cool. So I think just being patient and being loving in all areas, and it's gonna be difficult. There's gonna be times where you're gonna have to have a lot of conversations that may rub people the wrong way, but it's having those conversations because you want to see that person grow out of love.
Yeah.
Let's go bluntness.
So
Oh my
I
God.
think it's cool to being able to see that, and that's something that I had to grow in over time, because I think early on, like coming out of high school, even being in high school, coming out of high school, that was something I was just like, bro, if you do this, like the mentality was to just cut you out. All right, cool. I don't want this
100%.
friendship anymore, or I don't want that anymore. But
Yeah.
now it's just like, bro, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Like, let's see where we can change, or let's see what we can grow in. So that's cool. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that?
I'm sure we have a lot.
You know,
Time-wise,
it's
we probably
interesting that you
don't,
say
though.
that you've grown in patience, like being able to wait for like a friendship or relationship to grow. That's what I'm trying to do now, because going from like being a campus student to having so much availability and building friendships so quickly because you have so much time with them,
Yeah.
to working full time, being tired when you get home, but knowing you have to build relationships with people, especially in a new place. Like I went from Miami friends to now trying to make Broward friends. It's like, why is this why is this so slow? Like, and it's just so hard.
Perseverance is so
I know.
essential.
I think
Yeah.
it took a year for me to feel like this is my home.
Right.
Yeah.
A
You were in
year.
2019. 2019.
That's when I graduated, so I came straight
Yeah.
to Broward.
Yeah, it takes perseverance, and I even think intentionality. Like
Yeah.
the times
And
where
initiating.
initiating,
And I suck at initiating.
not waiting for the person to hit, like whoever it is to hit you up, but like, hey, like what are you doing? Like, let's chill. Or during COVID, yo, let's watch a show together. Bro,
Netflix party saved
Netflix
my
party.
friendships.
Remember when House Party was popping?
Yeah, for a week.
I thought it was still popping.
House
I
party
was
was
not
house
part of
party
that.
was popping for a week.
The
Y'all
same
got
week.
so tired.
Everybody was adding. People was just like 10 to a room. I
People
was
from
like, all
different
right, I'm
states.
good.
I'm like, I never
Too
met
many
you,
people.
brother.
It was like
Yeah.
a people overload for me.
It was actually
Especially
a lot.
not being able like to see people. Like it's like being in a room and then you see sunlight and you're like, God. That's what it felt like to me.
You ever
Man.
try to get on there just to like see who's on, but it notifies everyone, and before you could even lock your room, people
Somebody's-
join in.
Oh,
I'm like, bro, I got toothpaste on my face and stuff. Like,
What?
yeah.
but yeah, I think just being intentional and initiating. Going back to that, I don't know how we got to house party, but
Or toothpaste on the face.
or toothpaste on the face, but
just a saying.
yeah,
I created.
but seeking to do that is cool. Like it takes a lot of being humble, especially with initiation, because it's just like, man, let me just step out of my way to do this instead of waiting for the person, because you might be waiting for the rest of your life for that person to hit you up. But yeah, so I think it's cool, like being able to hear you guys talk about different friendships and you know how you guys have grown in different areas. I don't know if you guys have any funny stories with your best friends or things that happen, kind of like cap it off.
Funny stories. with
Funny
friends.
stories.
When do I not?
Every time we're together. Y'all got that.
Why is nothing coming to mind? I feel like I'm always
Funny
laughing.
stories. Just a random funny story.
a random funny story.
So me and my friend Alyssa were surprising someone at my house, and she put on someone's shoes that were like 2 or 3 times bigger than hers, and we started running into my backyard, and I just hear, and I turned around, and she face planted on the floor.
Shout out Alyssa for watching this.
I don't even know if she remembers this story. If I,
Because she face planted.
Exposing.
She might be concussed if she doesn't.
Cuss. But yeah,
oh my god.
we kind of close out on that face planting. Alyssa, if you're watching this, you're awesome.
Yes.
But guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna look here because that's my one shot right there. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're tuning on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. If you're on any of the podcasting services, thank you so much for listening. If you guys can, please share with your friends, family. This is much appreciated. All your best friends, because this is a podcast on friendship. So share if you love them. Don't say I said that. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I don't know if you guys want to say anything to close
like and
out.
subscribe. No,
Let's go get tacos.
Yeah, like and subscribe. It was awesome. Shout out Josh in the back.
Hey, let's go,
Let's
Josh.
go.
Let's go, Josh.
Let me get Josh in the cut.
Nah, he doesn't want to come up. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Natives Podcast. Stay on the lookout for our next episode. And yeah, I'm JP, and we're out. Peace.